The VESAK festival. The VESAK festival. The occasion selected for this wonderful outpouring is the full moon day of the Indian month of VESAK, called in Ceylon VESAK, and usually corresponding to the English May. The anniversary of all the momentous occurrences of his last earthly life, his birth, his attainment of Buddhahood, and his departure from the physical body. In connection with this visit of his, and quite apart from its tremendous esoteric significance, an exoteric ceremony is performed on the physical plane at which the Lord actually shows himself in the presence of a crowd of ordinary pilgrims. They all prostrate themselves at the moment when he appears, but that may be only in imitation of the prostration of the adepts and their pupils, who do see the Lord Gautama. It seems probable that some at least of the pilgrims have seen him for themselves, for the existence of the ceremony is widely known among the Buddhists of Central Asia, and it is spoken of as the appearance of the shadow or reflection of the Buddha. The description given of it in such traditional accounts being as a rule fairly accurate. So far as we can see, there appears to be no reason why any person whatever who happens to be in the neighborhood at the time may not be present at the ceremony. No apparent effort is made to restrict the number of spectators, though it is true that one hears stories of parties of pilgrims who have wandered for years without being able to find the spot. All members of the great White Brotherhood, except the king himself and his 3 disciples, usually attend this ceremony, and there is no reason why any of our earnest Theosophical members should not be present at it in their astral bodies. Those to whom the secret has been confided usually try so to arrange matters as to put their physical bodies to sleep an hour or so before the exact moment of full moon, and to be undisturbed until about an hour after it. The valley. The place selected is a small plateau surrounded by low hills, which lies on the northern side of the Himalayas, not far from the frontier of Nepal, and perhaps about 400 miles west of the city of Lhasa. This little plain is roughly oblong in shape, its length being perhaps a mile and a half and its breadth rather less. The ground slopes slightly downwards from south to north and is mostly bare and stony, though in some places covered with coarse, wiry grass and rough, scrubby vegetation. A stream runs down part of the west side of the plateau, crosses its northwest corner, and escapes about the middle of the north side through a pine-clothed ravine, eventually reaching a lake which is visible at a distance of some miles. The surrounding country seems wild and inhabited, and there are no buildings in sight except a single ruined stupa with 2 or 3 huts beside it. On the slope of one of the hills on the eastern side of the plain, about the center of the southern half of the plain, lies a huge block of greyish white stone veined with some glittering substance, an altar-like block, perhaps 12 feet in length by 6 feet wide and standing about 3 feet out of the ground. For some days before the appointed time, an ever-increasing cluster of tents of strange and uncouth appearance, most of them black, may be seen along the banks of the stream and down the side of the neighboring hills, and this otherwise desolate spot is enlivened by the campfires of a considerable multitude. Large numbers of men come in from the wandering tribes of Central Asia and some even from the far north. On the day before the full moon, all these pilgrims take a special ceremonial bath and wash all their clothes in preparation for the ceremony. Some hours before the time of the full moon, these people gather in the lower or northern part of the plain and seat themselves in a quiet and orderly manner on the ground, always taking care to leave a considerable space before the great altar stone. Generally, some of the lamas are present and they usually take this opportunity to deliver addresses to the people. About half an hour before the moment when the moon is full, the astral visitors begin to arrive, among them the members of the brotherhood. Some of these generally materialize themselves so as to be seen by the pilgrims and are received with genuflections and prostrations. Often our masters and some even greater than they condescend on this occasion to converse in a friendly manner with their pupils and with others who are present. While this is going on, those who are appointed to do so prepare the great altar stone for the ceremony by covering it with the most beautiful flowers and placing at each corner of it great garlands of the sacred lotus. In the center is placed a magnificently chased golden bowl full of water, and immediately in front of that a space is left among the flowers. The ceremony. About half an hour before the moment of full moon, at a signal given by the Mahachohan, the members of the brotherhood draw together in the open space in the center of the plain to the north of the great altar of stone and arrange themselves three deep in a large circle, all facing inwards, and the outermost circle being composed of the younger members of the brotherhood, and the greater officials occupying certain points in the innermost circle. Some verses from the Buddhist scriptures are then chanted in the Pali language, and as the voices die into silence, the Lord Maitreya materializes in the center of the circle, holding in his hands the rod of power. This wonderful symbol is in some way a physical center or fulcrum for the forces poured forth by the planetary logos, and was magnetized by him millions of years ago, when first he set the human life wave in motion round our chain of globes. We are told that it is the physical sign of the concentration of the attention of the logos, and that it is carried from planet to planet as that attention shifts, and that where it is, that is for moment the central theater of evolution, and that when it leaves this planet for the next, our earth will sink into comparative inertia. Whether it is carried also to the non-physical planets, we do not know, or do we understand exactly the way in which it is used, nor the part of which it plays in the economy of the world. It is kept usually in the custody of the Lord of the world at Shambhala, and so far as we know this, VESAK festival is the only occasion on which it ever leaves its care. It is a round bar of the lost metal orichalcum, perhaps 2 feet in length and about 2 inches in diameter, having at each end a huge diamond shaped into a ball with a cone projecting from it. It has the strange appearance of being always surrounded by fire, of having an aura of brilliant yet transparent flame. It is noteworthy that no one but the Lord Maitreya touches it during any part of the ceremony. On his materialization in the center of the circle, all the adepts and the initiates bow gravely towards him, and another verse is chanted. After this, still intoning verses, the inner rings divide into 8 parts so as to form a cross, which within the outer circle, the Lord Maitreya still remaining at the center. At the next moment of this stately ritual, the cross becomes a triangle, the Lord Maitreya moving forward so as to stand at its apex and therefore close to the altar stone. Upon that altar, in the open space left in the front of the golden bowl, the Lord Maitreya reverently lays the rod of power, while behind him the circle changes into a rather involved curved figure so that all facing the altar. At the next change, the curved figure becomes a reversed triangle so that we have a representation of the well-known sign of the Theosophical Society, though without its encircling snake. This figure in turn resolves itself into the five-pointed star, the Lord Maitreya being still at the southern point nearest to the altar stone, and the other great officials or Chauhans at the 5 points where the lines intersect. A diagram of the symbolic figures is herewith appended, as some of them are not easy to describe. When this seventh and final stage is reached, the chanting ceases, and after a few moments of solemn silence, the Lord Maitreya, again taking the rod of power into his hands and raising it above his head, utters in a few sonorous words of Pali, "All is ready, Master, come." Then as he again lays down the fairy rod, at the exact moment of the full moon, the Lord Buddha appears as a gigantic figure floating in the air just above the southern hills. The members of the brotherhood bow with joined hands, and the multitude behind them fall on their faces and remain prostrate while the others sing the three verses which were taught by the Lord Buddha himself during his earth life to the schoolboy Chatta. The Lord Buddha, the sage of the Sakyas, is among mankind the best of teachers. He has done that which has to be done and has crossed to the other shore, Nirvana. He is filled with strength and energy. Him, the Blessed One, I take for my guide. The truth is non-material. It brings freedom from passion, desire and sorrow. It is free from all strain. It is sweet, plain and logical. This truth I take as my guide. Whatever is given to the 8 kinds of the noble ones, who in pairs form the 4 grades, who know the truth, verily brings great reward. This brotherhood of the noble ones I take as my guide. The greatest blessing. Then the people rise and stand gazing at the presence of the Lord, while the brotherhood chants for the benefit of the people the noble words of the Mahamangala Sutta, which has been translated thus by Professor Rhys Davids. When yearning for good, many devas and men have held diverse things to be blessings. Do thou then inform us, O Master, what is the greatest blessing? Not to serve the foolish, but to serve the wise, to honor those worthy of honor. This is the greatest blessing. To dwell in a pleasant land, to have done good deeds in a former birth, to have a soul filled with right desires, this is the greatest blessing. Much insight and much education, self-control and a well-trained mind, pleasant words that are well spoken, this is the greatest blessing. To support father and mother, to cherish wife and child, to follow a peaceful calling, this is the greatest blessing. To bestow alms and live righteously, to give help to one's kindred and do deeds which cannot be blamed, This is the greatest blessing. To abhor and cease from sin, to abstain from strong drink, not to be weary in well-doing, this is the greatest blessing. Reverence and lowliness, contentment and gratitude, the hearing of the law at due seasons, this is the greatest blessing. To be long-suffering and meek, to associate it with the tranquil, religious talk at due reasons, this is the greatest blessing. Self-restraint and purity, the knowledge of the four great truths, the realization of nirvana, this is the greatest blessing. Beneath the stroke of life's changes, the soul that stands unshaken, passionless, unsorrowing, secure, this is the greatest blessing. Invincible on every side is he who acteth thus, on every side he walks in safety, and this is the greatest blessing. The figure which floats above the hills is of enormous size, but exactly reproduces the form and features of the body in which the Lord last lived on earth. He appears seated cross-legged, with hands together, dressed in the yellow robe of Buddhist monk, but wearing it so as to leave the right arm bare. No description can give an idea of the face. A face truly godlike, for it combines calmness and power, wisdom and love, in an expression containing all that our minds can imagine of the divine. We may say that the complexion is clear yellowish white, and the features clearly cut, that the forehead is broad and noble, the eyes large, luminous, and of a deep dark blue, the nose slightly aquiline, the lips red and firmly set, but all this puts before us merely the outer mask and gives but a little grasp of the living whole. The hair is black, almost blue-black and wavy. Curiously, it is neither worn long according to Indian custom, nor shaved off altogether in the manner of Oriental monks, but is cut off just before it reaches the shoulders, parted in the center and swept back from the forehead. The story is told that when the Prince Siddhartha left home to seek the truth, he seized his long hair and cut it off close above his head with a sweep of his sword, and that ever afterwards he kept it at the same length. One of the most striking features of this wondrous apparition is the splendid aura which surrounds the figure. It falls into concentric spheres, as do the auras of all highly advanced men. Its general plan is the same as that of the Arhat depicted in Man Visible and Invisible, but the arrangement of its colors is unique. The figure is englobed in light, which is somehow at the same time dazzling and yet transparent, so bright that the eye can hardly rest upon it, and yet through it the face and the color of the robe stand out with the perfect clearness. Outside of that comes a ring of glorious ultramarine. Then in succession glowing golden yellow, the richest crimson, pure silvery white, and a magnificent scarlet. All these being of course really spears, though showing as bands when seen against the sky, shooting out at right angles. Outside all these, or rays of all these hues intermingled and interspersed with flashes of green and violet. These colors, in exactly this order, are described in ancient Buddhist scriptures as constituting the aura of the Lord. And when in 1885 it was thought desirable that a special flag should be found for the Buddhists of Ceylon, our President Founder Colonel Olcott, in consultation with our Sinhalese brothers at Colombo, evolved the idea of utilizing for that purpose that the same significant grouping of colors. The colonel tells us that he learned some years later from the Tibetan ambassador to the Viceroy of India, whom he met at Darjeeling, that the colors are the same as those in the flag of the Dalai Lama. The idea of this symbolical standard seems to have been widely accepted. I have myself seen it in Buddhist temples at places as far apart as Rangoon and Sacramento in California. It is of course impossible to obtain in a printed illumination any approach to the brilliancy and purity of the colors as seen in the sky. All we can do is to offer a suggestion to help the imagination of the reader. In earlier books, we have described scarlet in man's aura as expressing anger only. So it does in the ordinary lower astral, but quite apart from this, we find that at higher levels, a far more magnificent and luminous scarlet, the very essence of living flame, betokens the presence of the dauntless courage and high determination. It is, of course, as denoting the possession of these qualities in a superlative degree that it appears in the aura of the Lord Buddha. The Lord Maitreya, who takes so prominent a part in this ceremony, will in due course of time succeed to the office now held by the Lord Gautama. It will perhaps be of interest to compare his aura with that which we have just described. When the Mahamangala Sutta is finished, the Lord Maitreya takes the golden bowl of water from the altar stone and holds it above his head for a few moments while the multitude behind who have also provided themselves with vessels filled with water follow his example. As he replaces it on the altar stone, another verse is chanted. He is the Lord, the saint who is perfect in knowledge, who possesses the 8 kinds of knowledge and has accomplished the 15 holy practices, who has come the good journey which led to the Buddhahood, who knows the 3 worlds, the unrevealed, the teacher of the gods and men, the blessed one, the Lord Buddha. As this ends, a smile of ineffable love beams forth from the face of the Lord as he raises his right hand in the attitude of benediction, while a great shower of flowers falls among the people. Again the members of the brotherhood bow, again the crowd prostrates itself, and the figure slowly fades out of the sky, while the multitude relieves itself in shouts of joy and praise. The members of the brotherhood come up to the Lord Maitreya in the order of their admission, and each sips the water in the golden bowl, and the people also sips theirs, taking the remainder home in their quaint leather bottles as holy water to drive away all evil influences from their houses, or perhaps to cure the sick. Then the vast company breaks up with mutual congratulations, and people bear away to their far distant homes an ineffaceable memory of the wonderful ceremony in which they have taken part.